Commander John Miller stood with his back straight and his face carefully blank as he watched the Xelarian ambassador sign the transfer documents. The tall, blue-skinned alien moved with fluid grace, his 6 fingers dancing across the digital pad. John didn't trust him one bit. "With this signature, we cement the friendship between our species," the ambassador said, his translator making his chirping language sound almost human. "These 50 warships represent the finest technology the Xelarian fleet can offer." John glanced through the massive viewport of the space station. The warships floated in neat rows against the blackness of space. They were huge, their hulls shimmering with a strange metallic color that shifted between purple and blue. They looked impressive, but something felt off. Lisa Adams, Earth's chief negotiator, stepped forward with a diplomatic smile. She was smart, tough, and the best poker player John had ever met. Even she seemed cautious today. "The people of Earth thank you for your generosity," she said. "These ships will help us defend ourselves against the Vorn Collective." The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "The Vorn are a threat to us all. We would not want to see such a promising young species as yours fall to their aggression." Everyone in the room knew what had happened at Europa. Half of Earth's fleet destroyed in a single battle. Thousands of good people lost. Earth was desperate for ships, and the Xelarians knew it. John moved closer to one of the display screens, studying the technical specifications of their new acquisitions. The power output readings seemed unusually low for vessels of this size. "Ambassador, these energy signatures," John began. Lisa shot him a warning look. The deal was too important to risk. The ambassador waved his long fingers dismissively. "Our ships operate on different principles than yours. You will need to adapt your measuring equipment." Later, when the Xelarians had left, John cornered Lisa in the observation deck. Earth stretched out below them, blue and peaceful. "We're getting ripped off," he said quietly. "Those ships aren't their top-of-the-line models. Look at the wear patterns on the hulls." Lisa sighed. "I know, but what choice do we have? The Vorn will be back in 6 months. We lost too many ships at Europa." "I don't trust them," John insisted. "The Xelarians have never shown interest in helping anyone but themselves." "Trust isn't the point here, John," Lisa said. "Survival is." On the Xelarian vessel heading home, the ambassador laughed with his aides. They spoke freely, knowing no humans could understand their language without translators. "Did you see their faces?" the ambassador chirped. "So grateful for our garbage." His chief science officer flicked his ears in amusement. "Those ships failed our safety protocols 20 years ago. The radiation leaks alone will kill half their crews. By the time they realize what we've done, it will be too late," the ambassador said. "When the Vorn attack, the humans will either die in those decaying ships or flee. Either way, Earth will be ripe for claiming." "Such valuable resources," the science officer agreed, "and the humans are too primitive to deserve them." The next morning, the first shipment of human engineers and crew boarded the newly designated U.S. Defender, the largest of the acquired vessels. John watched from the dock as they filed aboard, many of them young, excited to work with alien technology. "I want inspection teams on every ship," he told his aide. "Full radiation suites, structural integrity tests, everything. Don't trust the Xelarian specs." "Yes, Commander." "How deep should we go?" John stared at the massive warships. "Tear them apart if you have to. Something's wrong here, and I want to know what before we put our people inside these things." As he spoke, the engines of the U.S. Defender flared to life, glowing with an eerie purple light. Beautiful but somehow wrong, like everything about this deal. Earth needed these ships. John just hoped the price wouldn't be too high. Engineer Kate Simmons crawled through the narrow maintenance shaft of the U.S. Defiant. Sweat rolled down her face. The air was hot and stale. Her radiation detector clicked faster than it should, and that worried her. "How bad is it?" asked Sam, her assistant, through the radio. Kate paused to scan a section of wall where pipes joined together. The metal looked worn and thin. Her detector clicked rapidly. "Bad. Just like the other 4 ships," she replied. "These aren't slightly used warships. They're falling apart." 6 months had passed since the Xelarians sold Earth their fleet. 6 months of finding more problems than solutions. Kate had checked 5 ships now, and all had the same issues: radiation leaks, failing systems, and strange metal decay in key areas. She took samples and pictures, then crawled back toward the exit. Her suit would protect her from the radiation for now, but nobody could serve on these ships for long without getting sick. When Kate finally emerged from the maintenance shaft, she peeled off her protective gear and headed straight to the command center. Captain Eric Lane waited for her report. Eric was not like other captains. Before joining the Space Defense Force, he had been a scientist who studied weird physics. He had wild ideas that made other officers uncomfortable. That's why they gave him command of these problem ships. Nobody else wanted the job. "Let me guess," Eric said when he saw her face. "More radiation leaks." Kate nodded and showed him the readings on her tablet. "We can't use these ships, Captain. They're death traps." Eric frowned, looking at her data. But instead of looking defeated, his eyes suddenly lit up. "Wait a minute," he said. "Look at these decay patterns. The radiation isn't random." Kate didn't understand what he meant. "Sir, these patterns," Eric pointed at her screen. "They're too even, too precise. This isn't normal wear and tear." He pulled up files on his own computer. "I've been studying Xelarian tech for months now. Their approach to physics is different from ours. What if this isn't a flaw, but a feature they didn't tell us about?" Kate looked skeptical. "A feature that leaks radiation and makes metal decay." "Come with me," Eric said. They walked to a small lab Eric had set up. Inside were pieces of metal from the ships, samples Kate had collected earlier. Eric had been running tests on them. "Watch this," he said. He passed a device over one of the samples. The metal became slightly transparent, then solid again. "The radiation has changed the quantum properties of the hull material. It's causing phase shifting." "Phase shifting?" Kate asked. "Like in those science fiction shows." "Similar, but real," Eric said. "These ships are decaying, yes, but the decay is creating something new, a material that can partially exist in multiple dimensions at once." Kate stared at the sample. "That's impossible." "Not for Xelarian science, apparently," Eric replied. "I don't think they knew this would happen. They just wanted to get rid of their junk ships." He grinned suddenly. "But what if we could control it? What if we could harness this phase shifting?" "For what purpose?" Kate asked. "Imagine a ship that could phase in and out of normal space," Eric explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "Weapons would pass right through it. It could appear and disappear. It could be the perfect stealth technology." Kate began to understand. "A silent destroyer." "Exactly," Eric said. "We need to talk to Commander Miller right away. I'll need your engineering skills to make this work." He looked at the radiation readings again. The Xelarians thought they were selling us garbage. Instead, they might have given us the key to saving Earth. That night, Kate couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Eric's theory. If he was right, the decayed warships could be modified into something new, something powerful. The radiation that threatened to kill them might instead protect them. Tomorrow they would meet with Commander Miller to propose their idea. The Vorn would attack soon. They had little time to turn these death traps into the silent destroyers Earth needed. Project Silent Destroyer began in secret. Commander Miller gave them an isolated dock at the far end of Earth's orbital shipyard. Kate and Eric worked day and night with only a small team they could trust. Steve Harrison joined them as their computer expert. He had dark circles under his eyes and rarely smiled. Steve had lost his wife and 2 children in the Battle of Europa. He worked harder than anyone, driven by something deeper than duty. "The radiation has altered the molecular structure of the hull," Kate explained to the team. She pointed to a piece of metal that seemed to flicker under certain lights. Captain Lane believes we can control these changes. We need to harness the phase shifting, Eric added. If we succeed, our ships will be able to partially exist in multiple dimensions at once. Steve frowned at his computer screen. Even if we can control the phase shifting, how do we make it useful in combat? Kate spread out her plans on the table. We modify the power systems to direct and amplify the radiation effect. Then we build controls to activate it when needed. And I'll create a targeting system to use during phase shifts, Steve said. But we'll need a special AI to predict the best moments to shift. The calculations are too complex for humans to make during battle. For weeks they worked, turning theory into reality. They modified one small ship first, as a test. They called it the Scout. Kate redesigned its engines to harness rather than fight the radiation. Steve wrote new programs to control when and how the ship would phase shift. The day came for their first full test. Admiral Nancy Warren arrived to witness it. She was tall, stern, and didn't believe in the project. But Commander Miller had convinced her to watch one demonstration before shutting them down. "This is a waste of resources," she told Miller as they entered the observation room. "We should be fixing these ships the normal way, not chasing science fiction." Miller just pointed at the viewport. "Watch." Outside, the Scout floated beside a small asteroid. The ship was small, about the size of an old Earth bus. Its hull had a strange shimmer, the metal looking both solid and not quite there at the same time. Eric's voice came through the speakers. "Beginning phase test in 3, 2, 1. The Scout flickered like a bad image on a screen. For a moment, it seemed transparent, ghost-like. Then it fired a single energy beam at the asteroid while in this half state. The asteroid didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It simply vanished. Admiral Warren's mouth fell open. "Where did it go?" "Shifted into another dimension," Miller explained. "Not destroyed, just removed from our reality. The energy beam creates a controlled rift when fired during a phase shift," Kate added. "Anything caught in that rift is displaced from our dimension." Warren stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. Then she looked at the Scout, now solid again. "How soon can we modify the entire fleet?" she asked. "With proper resources, 3 months," Kate answered. "But we'll need everyone in this room to keep quiet about how it works." "Agreed," Warren said. "If the Xelarians learn what we've discovered." She didn't need to finish. Everyone understood that the aliens who had tried to cheat them must never know what their garbage ships could really do. As they left the observation room, Steve showed them his latest work on the targeting eye. "I call it the Phantom System," he said. "It can predict enemy movements and calculate perfect timing for phase shifts during battle." Kate noticed his hands shaking slightly as he worked. "Are you okay, Steve?" He looked up, his eyes haunted but determined. "I will be. When the Vorn learn what it feels like to disappear." Miller put a hand on Steve's shoulder, then addressed the entire team. "Speed is essential now. Intelligence reports say the Vorn are already moving toward our outer defenses." Eric nodded. "Then we'd better get to work. We have warships to rebuild." The race to transform Earth's fleet had begun. The alarm sounded across all Earth defense stations. The Vorn had broken through the Jupiter defense line 2 weeks earlier than expected. Long-range scanners showed over 50 Vorn warships heading directly toward Earth. "Status report," Commander Miller demanded as he entered the command center. "Only 7 ships have been fully modified," Kate replied. Her face was pale from too many sleepless nights. "The U.S. Phantom is ready as our flagship. The others need at least another week." "We don't have a week," Miller said grimly. "We launch with what we have." Captain Eric Lane stood on the bridge of the U.S. Phantom. The ship had once been the most radiation-damaged of the Xelarian vessels. Now it was Earth's greatest hope. Its hull shimmered with the controlled decay that allowed it to phase shift between dimensions. "All crew to battle stations," Eric ordered. "Prepare for departure." Steve Harrison sat at the main computer station, his fingers flying over the controls. The Phantom System AI, he had created was online, calculating thousands of possible battle scenarios per second. Phase shift drive is ready, Steve reported. The AI predicts a 78% success rate if we engage as planned. Eric nodded. It will have to be enough. The 7 modified ships launched from Earth's shipyard. They formed a protective line in front of Earth, looking small and fragile compared to the approaching Vorn fleet. Behind them, Earth glowed blue and green against the blackness of space. On a cloaked scout ship nearby, the Solarian ambassador watched with 4 eyes wide in anticipation. He had come to witness humanity's defeat. Soon, Earth would be theirs for the taking. Look at them, he chirped to his aide, using those decayed ships to defend themselves. This will be quick. The Vorn ships slowed as they approached. They were massive black vessels with red glowing weapons ports. Their hulls were covered with what looked like metal scales, a defense system that had made them almost impossible to damage in previous battles. A communication came through to all Earth vessels. A Vorn face appeared on the screen, reptilian and cold. "Humans of Earth," the Vorn commander hissed. "Your defenses are weak. Your ships are few. Surrender your world or be eradicated." Eric stood tall as he responded. "This is Captain Eric Lane of the U.S. Phantom. Earth does not surrender." The Vorn commander laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then you will die." The Vorn fleet spread out, preparing to attack. Their weapons charged, glowing bright red against their black hulls. "They're targeting all 7 ships," Steve reported, watching his screens. "Firing solutions calculated." Eric took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Would their modifications work in actual combat? Would the phase shifting save them? Or had they gambled everything on a theory that would fail? "All ships," he ordered, "engage phase shift drives." Throughout the 7 ships, engineers activated the systems Kate had designed. The radiation that had once threatened to kill them now flowed through specially designed channels. The ships began to flicker, becoming translucent, ghost-like. The Vorn fired. Massive energy beams shot toward Earth's defenders. Eric held his breath. The beams passed through the phase-shifted human vessels, causing no damage at all. "Phase shift holding," Kate reported from engineering. "We're stable between dimensions." The Vorn commander stared in confusion. His weapons had hit the human ships but passed through them, as if they weren't there. "Now," Eric ordered, "target the lead Vorn vessels and fire." The U.S. Phantom's weapons discharged while the ship was still phase-shifted. The energy created a controlled dimensional rift that shot toward 3 Vorn ships. There was no explosion, no debris. The 3 massive Vorn warships simply vanished from existence. The Vorn fleet halted. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for this. From his observation vessel, the Solarian ambassador stared in shock. "What have they done to our ships?" he whispered. Silence filled the bridge of the U.S. Phantom as everyone stared at the empty space where 3 Vorn warships had been moments before. No explosion, no debris, just gone. "It worked," Kate whispered. "It actually worked." The Vorn fleet remained frozen in confusion. Their ships drifted in space, weapons still charged but not firing. "They don't know what to do," Steve said, watching his screens. "The Phantom system predicts they'll either retreat or charge us in desperation." Eric didn't wait to find out which option they would choose. "All ships, continue phase shifting. Target the next group of Vorn vessels." The battle that followed was unlike any in human history. The 7 modified Earth ships flickered in and out of normal space, impossible to hit. When they fired their weapons during a phase shift, more Vorn ships simply disappeared. The U.S. Phantom led the attack, moving like a ghost through the Vorn formation. Steve's AI predicted Vorn maneuvers before they happened, allowing Eric to position the ship perfectly for each attack. 6 more ships removed, Steve reported. The Vorn are beginning to break formation. In the command center back on Earth, Commander Miller and Admiral Warren watched the battle through live feeds. The Admiral's face showed disbelief and growing hope. "They're doing it," she said. They're actually winning. Miller nodded. And we have 40 more ships nearly ready for modification. If we survive today, the Vorn will never threaten us again. Aboard the cloaked Solarian observation ship, the ambassador paced in growing panic. His aide frantically analyzed the sensor readings. "This is impossible," the ambassador chirped. "Those ships were decaying. The radiation should have killed the humans, not given them this power." "The readings suggest they've harnessed the quantum decay," his aide replied fearfully. "They've turned our garbage into weapons more advanced than anything in our fleet. We must report this to the High Council immediately," the ambassador said. "If the humans learn we tricked them." Back in the battle, the Vorn finally made their decision. Their remaining ships turned and began to flee. "They're retreating," Kate said. "We can't let them escape," Eric replied. "If they report what they've seen, every hostile species in the galaxy will know about our technology before we can fully develop it." The 7 Earth ships pursued the fleeing Vorn. The U.S. Phantom moved ahead of the others, easily catching up to the enemy vessels. "Surround them," Eric ordered. "Cut off their escape routes." The Earth ships took positions around the remaining Vorn fleet. The Vorn ships slowed, then stopped. They were trapped. A communication came through. The Vorn commander appeared on screen again, but now his reptilian face showed fear instead of arrogance. "What are you?" he hissed. "What have you done to our ships?" Eric stood tall as he faced the enemy. "We are humans. We only wanted peaceful existence among the stars. Your kind attacked us without reason at Europa. Remember that when you consider your next move." The Vorn commander's scales flattened against his head, a sign of submission in their species. "The Vorn Collective has never surrendered," he said slowly. "Until today." Word of the battle spread quickly across Earth's communication channels. People gathered in streets and homes, watching as the Vorn fleet was escorted back toward Earth by the 7 ships that had saved humanity. No one understood exactly how the victory had been achieved, but everyone knew one thing: Earth was safe. In the quiet of the U.S. Phantom's engineering section, Kate examined readings from the hull. The radiation levels had changed again. The phase shifting had accelerated the decay in some areas, but created new, stronger patterns in others. "We've only just begun to understand what these ships can do," she told Eric when he joined her. "The Solarians gave us more than they ever imagined." Eric nodded. "And once we figure out exactly who the Solarians are and why they tried to trick us, we'll pay them a visit with our silent destroyer fleet." Kate smiled. "I'd like to see their faces when we arrive in the ships they thought would kill us." "Soon," Eric promised. "Very soon." 2 months passed after the victory over the Vorn. Earth celebrated its heroes. The 7 ships that saved humanity became famous. Children played with toy models of the U.S. Phantom. Everyone wanted to know how such a small fleet had defeated the mighty Vorn. But the true nature of the silent destroyer technology remained secret. The public was told only that Captain Lane and Engineer Simmons had discovered a new way to use the alien ships. Behind closed doors, Earth's leaders made plans. "We've traced the radiation signature," Kate explained to Commander Miller and Admiral Warren. "We know exactly where the Solarians got it from. Their home system has unusual radiation that created the decay pattern in the ships." Miller nodded. "So they knew the ships were dangerous when they sold them to us." "They wanted us to die," Eric added, "or at least be too weak to defend Earth when the Vorn attacked." Admiral Warren studied the star charts showing the Solarian home system. "How many ships do we have ready now?" 23, Kate answered. "All fully modified and better than the original 7. We've improved the phase-shifting technology." "It's time we paid the Solarians a visit," Miller said. "Not for revenge, but to establish a new understanding." 1 week later, a diplomatic mission prepared to leave Earth. Lyssa Adams would lead the envoy, accompanied by 3 modified warships, including the U.S. Phantom. Their destination: the Solarian homeworld. The journey took 15 days. When they arrived, The Xelarians greeted them with forced politeness. They had heard about the defeat of the Vorn, but didn't know how it had happened. The Xelarian High Council received the humans in a grand hall with tall crystal windows. The ambassador who had sold them the ship stood nervously to one side. "We come in peace," Lisa began formally. "Earth wishes to strengthen its relationship with the Xelarian people." The head counselor, an older Xelarian with pale blue skin, nodded. "We too desire peace. We were pleased to hear of your victory over the Vorn." Lisa smiled. "Yes, it was quite remarkable. Our scientists made some interesting discoveries about the ships you so generously provided." The ambassador shifted uncomfortably. The head counselor glanced at him with suspicion. "What kind of discoveries?" the counselor asked. Instead of answering directly, Lisa nodded to an aide who activated a small projector. It showed images of the radiation patterns in the ships. "At first, we were concerned about these unusual readings," Lisa continued. "The radiation levels were quite dangerous, almost as if the ships had been designed to harm their crews." The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. The council members began to whisper among themselves. But then, Lisa went on, "Captain Lane and Engineer Simmons made a breakthrough. They found that this specific radiation created unique quantum properties in the hull material." Through the crystal windows, the 3 Earth ships performed a synchronized phase shift demonstration. The vessels flickered, becoming transparent, then solid again. The Xelarians stared in shock. Their faces paled to a light lavender color. "We've come to thank you," Lisa said calmly, "for providing us with exactly what we needed to become a dominant force in this sector." Captain Eric Lane stepped forward. "We could remove your entire planet from existence," he said quietly. "But unlike you, we don't believe in genocide for profit." The head counselor stood quickly. "There has been a terrible misunderstanding," he said. "The ambassador acted without council approval. We wish to make amends." "Good," Lisa replied. "We've prepared a series of trade and non-aggression treaties. We expect them to be signed by the end of the day." As the Xelarians hurried to agree, the ambassador tried to slip away. Kate stepped into his path. "You thought you were selling us death," she said softly. "Instead, you gave us the stars." Outside the council chamber, the U.S. Phantom hovered, its hull shimmering with the power to shift between dimensions. The silent destroyer had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year later, Earth had changed. The once vulnerable planet was now a force that other species approached with respect and caution. The silent destroyer fleet had grown to 50 ships, each one more advanced than the last. The Xelarians had become Earth's reluctant partners. Their trade and technology flowed to Earth under treaties they couldn't break. The Vorn Collective had withdrawn completely from human space, focusing on rebuilding their fleet far from Earth. Kate Simmons stood in her new laboratory aboard the U.S. Phantom. The ship was in orbit around Earth, preparing for a mission to explore distant star systems. The lab was filled with pieces of the original Xelarian hulls, still being studied for new possibilities. "Still working?" Eric Lane asked as he entered. He was now Admiral Lane, in charge of the silent destroyer fleet. Kate smiled. "Always. There's so much more to learn about the phase shift technology." Eric nodded. They had come far since those early days of crawling through radiation-filled maintenance shafts. The new cadets arrived tomorrow. First class trained specifically for phase shift operations. "I saw the roster," Kate said. "There's a Xelarian name on it." "Yes, part of our exchange program with their science academy," Eric explained. The council insisted. "I think they want to keep an eye on what we're doing with their technology." Kate laughed. "Their technology? They never even knew what they had." They walked to the observation deck. Earth shone below them, peaceful and blue. In the distance, they could see other silent destroyer ships practicing phase shifts, flickering like stars against the blackness of space. "Commander Miller wants us at the ceremony tomorrow," Eric said. "They're naming the new defense platform after you." Kate blushed. "The Simmons platform. It still sounds strange. You earned it. None of this would have been possible without your engineering skills. A young officer approached them with a datapad. Admiral, the scans from the Edge sector are complete. We found something unusual. Eric reviewed the information. Signal patterns from beyond our galaxy. Yes, sir. They don't match any known species. Kate and Eric exchanged looks. New discoveries were coming faster now that Earth had ships that could travel safely through regions once too dangerous to explore. Prepare the Phantom for departure, Eric ordered. We'll investigate ourselves. Later that evening, Kate visited Steve Harrison in his quarters. Unlike most of the crew, Steve had remained quiet and serious even after their victory. The loss of his family still haunted him. "Are you coming to the platform naming tomorrow?" she asked. Steve shook his head. "I'll be working on the new Phantom system upgrades. The AI needs adjustments for the Edge sector mission." Kate sat beside him. "You know, it's been a year. You've helped save Earth. Your family would be proud." Steve looked up from his computer. For the first time in months, he offered a small smile. "Maybe they would. I like to think they're watching from somewhere." "Another dimension," Kate suggested. "Perhaps one we can reach someday with the phase shift technology." The idea seemed to bring Steve comfort. "I'd like that." The next morning, Earth celebrated the unveiling of the Simmons Defense Platform. Politicians made speeches about humanity's bright future among the stars. Children waved small flags with the silent destroyer emblem. In the crowd, a group of Silurian diplomats watched with mixed feelings. Their attempt to weaken humanity had instead created a new power in the galaxy. As the ceremony ended, the U.S. Phantom performed a flyby, phasing in and out of visibility. The crowd cheered at the spectacular sight. Aboard the ship, Eric gave the order to set course for the Edge sector once the demonstration was complete. "Ready to see what's out there?" he asked Kate as she joined him on the bridge. She nodded, looking at the stars that once seemed so far away and dangerous. "The Solarians thought they were ending our story. Instead, they just gave us a better beginning." The U.S. Phantom flickered, shifted between dimensions, and vanished from Earth's sky, heading toward new adventures among the stars. Humanity's journey had only just begun.